Thank you. All right, I'm a little bit more of a roamer, so I'm safety first, right? So yeah, my name's Mark. All right, let's get out of that. So, I apologize. I put this together, and then the direction came out that like, hey, we only want a couple of slides, just real quick do's and don'ts. So I got a little bit more into that, and then as we've been talking, I kind of through my co-presenters and listening to folks, I'm like, man, I really kind of need to adjust some things. So first thing that I really want to address and reinforce with you guys. I see people kind of falling asleep, whatever. I want you to stand up if you were a leader, and this goes for you folks on Zoom as well. If you were a leader, I want you to stand up right now. Bingo, thank you, Deb. Thank you, Deb. Exactly. Everybody up. Everybody up. Even at home too, stand up for just a second. Shake it up. Shake it up. I know it's at least here, it's a little warm, a little stuffy. Okay, when you guys are ready, take a seat. All right, so this is really relevant because there's a lot of folks, I know a lot of folks who talked about this, that everybody's in middle management, right in the middle. We're not mayors and county commissioners and fire chiefs, yada yada, state governors. There's none of that crowd in this room, right? Maybe one or two, if you want, raise your hand by all means, but we're all just kind of that middle level. And that's where I was in 2017 in Eastern Oregon. Okay. We can go ahead and next. Sorry. So I did this in Canva. It did not translate well to PowerPoint. So I apologize. This is going to be in PDF, a little bit more technical. But if I get the next slide, please. Yeah, just next. There you go. All right. So who is this guy? Really quickly, you guys can all read for yourselves. So basically, I am 44. I started in public safety at 18 straight out of high school, was police department, et cetera. Everybody else has got really pretty pictures of their face front and center. I don't have a pretty face, so there you go. There's my back. So here's where I was, John Day, Oregon. Well, just east of John Day, up here in Dixie Butte, Dixie Pass. So far, everybody's talked about the weed Eclipse, right? We got this the big deal in Madras, right? And thank you, Colin, for bringing that up and having that there. So we're going to talk about Madras in just a second. What came to John Day was the me Eclipse. This was the folks that want a quiet, serene. We had no big plans. Yeah, there was a little festival in town, et cetera, but there was no big party, 30,000 people, yada, yada. Very quiet, very peaceful. My Eclipse experience standing up there at Dixie Pass was, as totality comes on, everybody just, oh, and then this. So anyway, at the time I was one of those middle leaders. I was one of those folks that, the Chamber of Commerce was like, hey, this is going to be a thing. Okay, cool. I'll listen to you. I was a fire prevention officer. So my job was very, very, very broad spread between fire, law enforcement, outreach, education. Basically anything that wasn't specifically covered under somebody else's PD was here. Mark, handle it. Okay, copy that. I can do that. So I did that. And I ended up barking up the tree. I barked up the forest supervisor's tree, barked up the regional forester's tree. And everybody said, don't worry about it. It's all right. It's going to be a little thing. We're not having big events, yada, yada. Weeds and trees, bro. Weeds and trees. The forest does weeds and trees. Well, that changed about 6 months out. And all of a sudden they're screaming, turn around and flip back around. And now it's like, hey, Mark, by the way, Northeast Oregon, you're really dialed in. How about you go ahead and just take charge? Next page, please. So anyway, that's where I'm coming from. So, Oregon Solar Fest 2017, Madras, Oregon. A giant Eclipse party. They have concerts, games, food, all this great stuff. Very highly organized, as you guys saw. There were people right there as you were exiting the parking lot. They're yep, going, everybody go, right? And then John Day, Grant County. Here's the me Eclipse, right? This is actually from Dixie Butte Lookout. And speaking of clouds, et cetera, wildfire smoke here in the background. So we can, so anyway, we were told to expect, lots of people are going to come. There's going to be riots. There's going to be fights in the middle of one supermarket in town. Because there is one supermarket in town in the John Day Valley. And everybody's going to go there and everybody's going to be fighting over the last package of bologna and the last loaf of bread. Negative, did not happen. So speaking about, people getting spun up and the National Association of the Risks involved. And boy, I really want to talk about that in the breakout. Yeah, I will sit and I will get on. making an impact. Moving on, next slide, please. All right, so large events, right? These are the we events, right? So I kind of did a little bit of a SWOT analysis minus the O and T, especially since we don't have a whole lot of time. So they're going to be better organized. 99% of the time, they're going to be better organized, right? You're going to hire a professional. There's going to be companies involved. There's going to be security, staffing, probably medical trained folks and aid station setup, et cetera, right? These folks are going to have vendors, which are going to provide food and water, right? So folks that, here's the thing about it. So the folks that are, flip side of this, for every strength, there's a weakness. So you got a lot of people come to one place, right? What does that cost? Traffic. Right? How is your ingress and egress plan and mapped? Is there good ingress and egress? Are we way out here in the back roads of nowhere, Oregon, where it's a bumpy 2-track, or are we right off a major highway? These are things to think of. So yes, we have vendors, etc. But hey, if you're going to a shindig with vendors, are you going to bring your own food? Not as likely, right? You're going to have to go buy it. So, long story short, you guys know. So, Symbiosis Gathering, Big Summit Prairie near Mitchell, Oregon. So this is kind of splitting the difference between Madras and John Day, but 30,000 people. The thing with these two events, with the Solar Fest and the Big Summit Prairie, the Symbiosis Gathering, is they were very well marketed. So when we talk about your tourism folks, your Chamber of Commerce folks, man, these places had websites, they had hashtag campaigns, they had all sorts of outreach, and so they brought in a lot of people. So what do you do about it, right? You're a leader in public safety of some sort, or hey, you're taking this back to your leaders in public safety. What do you do about it? Meet with the organizers. And what I would recommend is you grab a senior officer out of your police department, senior deputy out of your sheriff's department, engineer or captain out of your fire department. There's folks that actually are going to be on the ground working. They're actually going to be responding to incidents. Put those folks in touch with these event planners and say, hey, we embed this person with you. Can you work with them? And they can indeed help the event planners make better safety, security plans, et cetera. And on the flip side, this person who has been involved with this planning process with the event planners now has all the inside knowledge. They've been there, they've seen the place, they've got it all figured out, they've got a map inside their head, and they're like, okay, I know where this is, where everything else is. And they go and they make their own internal plan that then gets propagated to ambulance, sheriff's department, fire, highway patrol. And you put a copy of a map and a plan, real quick, real simple. It doesn't have to be a long document, a couple pages. But what you need to know, who your points of contact are, et cetera, put those, and I want every single one in every patrol car, every ambulance, every fire engine should have a copy of that for every major event. So as you're rolling to an incident, beep, 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 vegetation fire, yada, right? So at that point, that company officer, that LEO can pull out that little flip book of info and be like, okay, I know where I'm going, I know what's going on, I know who to talk to, okay? Like I said, circulate surrounding resources through the area as well. And then this is one that we did in John Day. Actually, it was we stood up an incident management team. We had the Rainbow Family of Living Light National Gathering immediately prior. For those not familiar with the Rainbow Family, that is essentially about 30,000 people come to a national forest. They pick a different forest every year. They come and they take over about a couple square miles of camp for about a month and a half. So we were already, and they had chosen the Malheur National Forest, Blue Mountain Ranger District for that. Guess who was the fire prevention officer of Blue Mountain Ranger District? This guy right here. So next slide here. So what happened out of that was we stood up an incident management team, actually a law enforcement incident management team. Law enforcement and fire met up. We stood up the management team for the rainbows, and then we just basically kind of rolled that over into the Eclipse. Okay, so small event and remote location considerations. John Day fossil beds, that's a pounding in it. I don't think that was actually, if it was on totality, it was like right on the northern edge. But I'll make a joke before I get you laughing again. So if the middle of nowhere had a middle of nowhere, Clarno was in the middle of that middle of the middle of nowhere. So very, very remote. Here's the thing with those small events and rural locations. That's what I really want to talk about. I'm gonna harp on this breakout. It's just rural. So you don't have as many people coming into one specific location. That's great for your traffic management, right? But What's the flip side of that? Now they're spread all over the place. You have no idea who's what and where, right? Large events planning. You know, it's advertised. You know where that works. All these people just hanging out in the woods. You have no clue. So, how do you do that? Intelligence, right? Get out, like I said in the previous breakout, I was out there driving. I was out there driving a lot. Say I probably put 3,000 miles on my rig and probably about a month and a half leading up to the eclipse of just driving around. And where are people camping? Where are people going to eat? Where are they doing? What are they doing? Downsides also is, you know, in rural communities, right? You don't have a lot of cops, don't have a lot of firefighters, don't have a lot of EMTs. So those folks, you hang on to those folks. Those folks are your goal. You need force multipliers. So, you know, I'll tell you where I'm at right now, Donovan, Missouri. Boy, we get one serious traffic accident, et cetera, we're done. That's it. All of our resources are committed. So something else happens, another accident, et cetera. All right, so what can we do? Set up those interagency agreements, get everybody on the same page, working together, and here's the outside the box part. Next slide, please. So Racy's Aries, these are amateur radio folks. In Grant County, these guys were awesome. They would embed with our search and rescue folks. Search and rescue, we can stick them on an ambulance, et cetera. And they have, you know, their ham radio equipment on top of the typical, you know, law enforcement, fire, EMS radios. They have their own radios, their own repeater networks. They can set up mobile repeater networks for you and expand your communications capability. They're awesome. They're one of the not very well-known groups in public safety that are a true godsend. Community emergency response teams, right? So these are folks that there's a program you take, it's a formal program sponsored through FEMA. You can get training in disaster management, search and rescue, fire suppression, a few other things. And basically, once that's done, these folks are then able to work usually through the county emergency management agency. And so they can come in, they can assist, they can do triage in a mass casualty incident. They can run aid stations. They could be volunteers standing there at the you know, at your stopping point in the road, saying, "Yep, no, sorry, you gotta go this way. Here's your need for it." Citizens on patrol, kind of same thing, but geared specifically towards law enforcement. Usually, these folks, you go through a Citizens Police Academy, pass background check. And then you go through a field training program, and then they basically drive around in specially marked rigs. They have access to law enforcement radio channels, and they can get on their eyes and ears essentially. But they can also help with crowd control, with traffic control, et cetera. So that's it for me right now. So yep. Here's the info. Like I said, this is a primer. I'm trying to talk like micro machine now. I apologize because it's like minutes, and I'm pretty sure I've been more than 7 minutes. So hand it back to Deb.